Beamy Mason, 35, site reliability and platform guy, at a mid-tier B, 2B software shop company name, sounds like something you'd see on a trail backpack. Think Summit Ridge vibes. Our customers are shipping yards and factory floors, where every minute late costs real money. They track time and fines, delays, overtime, all the painful stuff. Our product is this giant stitched-together monster, trying to unify like 10 different ugly systems. Some pieces are shiny microservices. Some pieces are prehistoric batch jobs nobody dares touch. Some parts run on Windows boxes. Everyone pretends aren't there. Cash rolls in every month, as long as nothing visibly explodes. Board calls at the flagship, because cash cow sounds bad. On earnings calls, engineers call it the monster, because it chews up anyone acting brave. My job is making sure little issues stay. Little so sales can keep saying, always available, without laughing. Not glamorous work, but one broken service can freeze a warehouse faster than a labor strike team, is small, tight, and actually good. Nobody flexes because flexing doesn't fix outages. Eric, 38, runs infra like some silent wizard who can hear a dying fan from across the room. Priya, 32, lives deep in the database and reads query plans like forensic evidence. Tom, my manager, decent guy, acts like a sponge for blame, so the rest of us don't drown me in the middle, writing playbooks, babysitting releases, turning chaos into boring updates. Old CEO was this blunt gray-haired dude with one philosophy: ship product. Send invoices, repeat forever, didn't care about your opinions as long as customers didn't call legal stuff broke back then too. But it got fixed because someone owned it. Culture was messy, but it worked like a cluttered garage where tools are everywhere. But the car still starts. People joked, argued, took shots at each other, and the build still went out. Friday, one unspoken rule everyone followed: fix it first, talk about it later. Then go home. Retirement email drops on a Wednesday morning. Nobody claps, because nobody here does. That fake goodbye thing, board sends a cheerful note about a new era and modern leadership vision. Instead of hiring another technical CEO, they pick a culture-first type and give her center stage. Her name's Tessa. 31, head of people, culture, and inclusion. First impression is a big smile that never really changes, and a calendar that ambushes you week 1 seems harmless enough. Office walkarounds, intro chats, listening sessions, lots of thank you for your perspective. HR follows her around with clipboards like she's inspecting a disaster site. She comes by our section, looks at our dashboards, smiles at the incident graphs like their painting says, quietly, "This area feels very high intensity," then adds, "So much focused energy here, very male-coded." I keep a straight face because arguing with that kind of wording is like trying to punch smoke. Eric leans over and whispers, "Male-coded uptime." I almost spit my coffee. Priya just rolls her eyes and dives back into SQL, like it's a shield. Posters start showing up near the coffee machine with vague slogans about inclusion and power dynamics. One says power lives in shared spaces, right above a printer that jams every third job. Nobody really cares because code still builds and invoices still go out. Then the meetings start multiplying. Weekly culture syncs, monthly safe space chats, quarterly value reflections, stacking up like dirty dishes. Nobody wants to deal with. Engineering just sits through them like bad weather, quiet, patient, annoyed mandatory intros, get added to every meeting, name, pronouns, energy level, and a one-line intention. My intention is always get out of this meeting, but apparently honesty isn't on brand changes creep in. Not in code, but in how we talk. New performance categories show up: collaboration warmth, empathy metrics, intentional impact. Incident reports start, including sections about feelings, even when the issue was literally an expired cert. Slack gets new recommended reactions from people. Ops hearts, sparkles, a little ear icon for listening engineers. Spam the ear as a joke until a memo tells us to use it. Respectfully, lunch gets louder because laughing is safer than complaining officially. Bonus season hits and something feels off. Immediately, my bonus is lower than expected. Not huge, just enough to feel targeted. Eric's takes a bigger hit. He sends me a screenshot with just LOL. Priya's stays the same, which somehow feels worse. like it's part of a plan. Finance sends out a message about aligning variable compensation, says bonuses were adjusted based on holistic contributions models. Holistic is what you say when you don't want people checking numbers. Tom gives a tired shrug and suggests we book a clarification session with people. Op A's curiosity wins, so we go. Room smells like lavender and corporate forgiveness. Facilitators talk in soft voices. They ask how we feel about the change before explaining anything. Questions about performance get answers like metrics depend on context and value isn't one-dimensional. Nobody will say who made the decisions. Everything points back to the committee, because committees are great at hiding fingerprints right after. They send out a survey 10 minutes long, full of weird questions like how comfortable you feel. Taking up space during meetings, next survey question. Asks how often you talk without getting cut off. Another one asks how comfortable you are asking for more resources. Last one asks if you feel the company's been fair to you over time. Answering honestly feels like walking barefoot through rakes. Most engineers just hit neutral down the line and close it. Sales treats it like a personality quiz. And post-results in general, chat engineering treats it like junk mail, which is the only sane response to surveys about vibes. 2 weeks later, calendar invite hits for an all-hands title is Pay, Power, and Progress room. Fills up with sales grins, engineers in hoodies, HR with notebooks ready. The whole place feels like a training seminar. Nobody signed up for. Tessa kicks it off with compliments, then a little history lesson, then slides full of bright colors and $0 signs, introduces something called the Equity Balance Adjustment, EBA, because acronyms make things sound official. She explains emotional labor as invisible effort that keeps teams functioning, then talks about structural advantage as certain roles having easier paths by default. Next line says, nobody is being punished, just invited to be part of a correction. She never says men out loud, doesn't have to. Everyone hears it anyway. Next slide talks about an equity reserve fund, funded by adjustments to the bonus pool slide, carefully avoids saying deductions, like it's a banned word. Closing line drops flat, you'll start seeing this next pay cycle. HR and marketing clap, that polite nervous kind. Engineering stays quiet because our hands are busy holding it together. Hallway after feels like the power just went out. People whispering, staring at phones. Choosing words carefully, one junior dev asks if this means salaries can go down. People Ops answers with, compensation will be balanced, and somehow balanced sounds worse. Tom sets up a Q&A that's technically optional, but not really legal. Questions get redirected into trust the process. Performance questions get hit with, let's not think in scarcity terms. Retention concerns get, no one here is irreplaceable. Eric mutters, that's not comforting. Priya just nods without even looking up. Payday hits and now it's real pay. Stubb has a new line, EBA contribution minus 14.8%. Eric's is minus 17.2%. His hands actually shake folding the paper. Guys across back-end report cuts anywhere from 10 to 25%. Most women get equity credits, bumping their take-home. By similar amounts, pattern is obvious to humans, but blurry enough for legal cover. Not every guy gets hit, which keeps it technically fair, but enough do that the message lands loud. Clarity sessions start popping up everywhere, basically required. If you want to complain without a label inside those rooms, People Ops explains EBA like it's a charity drive. If you're upset, that's valuable feedback, which somehow becomes your responsibility to process. Pushback gets labeled as defensiveness. Defensiveness gets labeled as fragility. Fragility becomes proof of the problem. Someone asks if there's an appeal. Process answer is EBA is dynamic and reviewed quarterly based on outcomes. Translation, no appeals, just wait and see. Guy named Derek presses harder, asks what inputs they use to calculate. This People Ops responds with a long paragraph about confidentiality and psychological safety. Derek gets a follow-up invite called adaptive communication coaching. After that, Derek stops asking questions because coaching is just a muzzle with nicer packaging. No one explodes because rent doesn't care about principles. Instead, something quieter happens. Company shifts from "we own this" to "I did my part." Late night fixes stop happening automatically. On-call swaps stop being favors, risky projects stop getting volunteers. Incidents still get fixed, but the extra layer of prevention disappears. Management calls it growth, boundaries, healthier balance. Reality calls it losing the shock. Absorbers. Fridays used to have a couple quiet heroes pushing deployments, so Monday wouldn't suck. Now everyone logs off at 5, even if things are half broken. My own habits change. I follow policy instead of instinct, because instinct suddenly has a price tag. Priya gets weirdly quiet, not happy, not guilty, just worn down, she tells me. In the break room, they didn't reward me for being good. They rewarded me for fitting the narrative that hits harder than any rant, because she knows it's true and hates it. Eric starts tracking everything in a private spreadsheet, every deduction, every pay cycle, like he's counting days in a cell. Each entry has a note about whatever incident he saved that week. Spreadsheet entries basically proof he's still doing the work. One night, we're at a crappy bar, 3 drinks in, finally stop filtering ourselves. Eric goes, "They didn't lower my pay, they lowered how much I care." Priya says, "They don't value skill. They value appearance." I just say, appearance doesn't fix outages. First missed deadline hits. Some small feature management shrugs it off as normal agile variance. Second miss hits a migration. Finance starts quietly watching burn rate. Third miss hits a client integration. Sales starts sweating but pretending not to. Sales panic shows up as cheerful Slack messages about partnering closely. Engineering replies with calendar links. Next availability is Thursday. And somehow, next availability sounds like payback first. Real outage is minor batch job delay, reports late by, like 2 hours incident channel, fills with supportive language, barely any actual logs. Someone asks Megan, new on call, if she needs emotional support. 3 people drop heart emojis. Job keeps failing, while everyone is being supportive, feels like a joke. Nobody says out loud, logs clearly show an indexing issue. Basic stuff. Priya used to fix in like 15 minutes. Priya points it out once, then stops talking, after people ops asks her to adjust tone. Fix eventually goes, in late post-mortem, full of learning opportunities and zero accountability. Next week, senior engineer Kyle quits, sends a calm calendar invite, and a short goodbye email. Tessa posts a thank you message about him, closing a chapter, like he's a podcast season ending. More people leave after that. Not dramatic, just steady trickle, like a slow leak. Nobody patches every person. Leaving takes invisible knowledge with them stuff nobody documents because you don't realize, handoffs become ceremonies. Shared docs, recorded walkthroughs, disclaimers about missing context. Context is the one thing you can't actually transfer. New hires come in fast, nice resumes, polished confidence, fresh laptops, onboarding full of circles, value exercises, slides about harmful legacy systems. Problem is the system doesn't care about feelings. New team suggests rewriting a core service because the old one feels hostile. Hostile meaning comments written by tired devs and logs. You have to actually read. They rename services to nicer names like Beacon and Garden. Meanwhile, production still runs on some stubborn legacy service nobody wants to touch. Tom tries pushing back, gets told to trust the transformation. Trust becomes the replacement for evidence, big client, request drops. Compliance report, due Friday. For audit season sales promises, Monday, because of course they do. Old version of us would have pulled an all-nighter and shipped it. New version waits for alignment. Alignment meeting gets scheduled, then rescheduled, then moved again. Because someone felt excluded by the time report goes out. Tuesday client doesn't yell, which somehow feels worse. Real break happens at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, small percentage of logins. Failing randomly, alert is yellow, not red. Exactly how bad things sneak in. Megan restarts. A few pods errors drop incident marked. Resolved errors come back at 6 a.m. worse during warehouse shift. Client floor gets locked out. Mid-operation escalation. Wakes me up because I still know how things work. Incident channel full of holding space. While graphs climb, logs show token time. Drift, I remember the old time sync bug from last year. Eric would have known instantly which host breaks after updates he's busy interviewing elsewhere. We ping him anyway. Reply comes back later. Not on call. Check Runbook 9.4. Runbook mentions some old Windows Time Service desync issue. There's a script for it, but permissions got streamlined and Megan can't run it. Access request has to go through safe access process, which means form, approval, meeting warehouse keeps losing time while we protect access policies. Client calls in. Voice flat asks what we're doing. Tessa joins, starts talking about sustainable solutions. Client cuts in. Sustainable is nice. I need my people logged in now. Time service finally fixed. System stabilizes, everyone breathes for like 5 minutes next day. New issue reporting starts timing out. Database still wrecked from last night. Priya knows the fix, immediately index tweak, and locking the query plan. New team decides the query is legacy, tries rewriting it. In some trendy framework, deploy goes out without understanding the pipeline because documentation felt biased. New query hammers the DB, CPU spikes locks. Stack up reporting system collapses, client notices in 10 minutes because clients notice lost money faster than alerts. This time they don't just call, they show up. Contract allows audit during extended outages. 3 engineers walk in with badges and 0 patients conference room. Fills with logs and silence client lead. Asks for root access and last deployment timeline. People ops tries talking about shared ownership. Client engineer just says, ownership isn't a mindset. It's responsibility. Audit runs 8 hours straight. By the end, they look exhausted. Not from code, from how things are run. Their summary uses polite phrases, knowledge continuity risk, organizational instability. Basically saying, everyone who knew anything is gone that night. A junior I used to mentor, Jake, messages me, asks about reconciliation, Windows and time drift issues. I just reply, check Runbook section on time zone drift. No extra help, because helping for free is unpaid labor. Now 2 days later, email from company legal subject line, carefully worded, request for technical clarification, says they're reviewing risk tied to the audit, not asking me to come back, just offering hourly pay for a 1-hour call to explain documentation and past decisions. Tom calls me after, sounds exhausted, asks me to please take it. I agree, but set rules 1 hour. No touching systems drive to the office feels weird, like visiting a hospital. You used to work in? Lobby looks the same, but the vibe feels different. Like the place switch belief systems sign at reception says assume positive intent. They hand me a visitor badge. Feels like a joke. Conference room has legal, finance, Tom, and CFO. Linda, she's got sharp eyes and says nothing. Another lawyer in the corner, typing non-stop like a stenographer. Tessa sits at the end of the table, hands folded, no smile. This time, Renee asks what broke and what risks are still out there. Lawyer reminds everyone this is being recorded. I keep answers dry, factual, boring enough to survive a courtroom, explain the system, quiet parts, noisy parts, and the cursed Windows time issue. Renee asks if the architecture itself is bad. I say it's solid but learned, meaning it depends on experience, not just docs. Lawyer asks if there was sabotage. I say no tricks, no hidden bombs, just professionals and a lot of diagrams. Another question slides in about whether pay changes affected staffing. Lawyer asks it gently, like it's harmless. I answer straight, incentives changed. People adjusted, outcomes followed. Renee asks for specifics, so I list them. After hours. Fixes stopped on call, flexibility died. Preventative work froze Paul, flinches because he's lived it. Tessa jumps in about separating technical issues from cultural framing. I answer again, you can't separate them. Incentives decide who stays and who cares. Renee's expression tightens because finance understands gravity. Next question comes clean. Did compensation policy impact retention and performance? I say yes, EBA removed reward for carrying risk, so people stopped carrying it. Lawyer offers a neat statement for the record, basically PR in sentence form. EBA was not a factor in Mason's departure. I don't sign it. Not selling lies for an hourly check room, shifts slightly, polite masks getting thinner. Renee wraps it up fast, thanks me for being candid, which in CFO language means message received. Paul walks me out, mutters, Sorry, like he's confessing. Hallway has new hires sitting in a reflection or circle. Whiteboard behind them, full of outage timelines. One sticky note says, "What was the harm?" in big letters. I step outside and the air feels cleaner. Next day, Tessa emails me. Directly, subject line, following up, offers consulting work. Flexible hours. One line stands out. Glad to utilize your experience constructively. Utilize sounds like I'm a tool. I reply, short not available. Prefer places where experience is valued, not used. A week later, a recruiter from a vendor reaches out, same company hired them, and now wants me as a paid expert. Rate is high, language basically says, I can bill my frustration tempting for about 5 seconds. Then no, my sanity costs more. Weeks go by and nothing explodes. It just bleeds slowly. Clients start demanding credits, finance cuts, travel. Engineering drowns in meetings. People Opus responds with even more programs and listening sessions. Board quietly steps in, forms an oversight group. Tessa doesn't get fired. She gets moved to equity strategy advisor, same office. No real power, the kind of demotion that hurts without headlines. Vendor comes in to fix reliability and delivery. Contract costs more than the entire EBA pool, feels like a joke written in spreadsheets. Outsiders get paid premium to rebuild what insiders were taxed for. War rooms show up sticky notes, rotating shifts, coffee carts, people pretending urgency. Former engineers sell knowledge hourly without coming back full time. Priya eventually quits, says she's tired of being a symbol instead of a specialist. Eric leaves 2 jokes about his new badge, no deductions, just expectations. Layoffs start non-essential roles first, meaning anyone without leverage EBA doesn't die. It gets paused because calling it dead would look bad. Press release drops later, company gets acquired by a bigger corp. Lots of words about culture and synergy. No mention of the near collapse that forced it. Industry forums tear it apart. Engineers don't forget things like this. Months later, I run into Renee at a conference. She admits incentives were the real issue, says the sale price was way below what it used to be. Board wanted a story with no villains, just lessons. Have dinner with Eric and Priya after shared damage is cheaper than therapy. Conversation is calm, new jobs, real work, no buzzwords, no one celebrates. We never wanted the place dead, just less broken. Priya says they respected the idea of women, not actual skilled women. Eric says they changed payroll lines and called it fairness. My takeaway stays simple. They treated experience like bias. Then acted surprised when it walked out. I sleep better now because nothing's skimming my paycheck. Few weeks later. Message from Jake at midnight, asks if I can be a reference. His role got cut during a focus shift. I say yes, instantly. Mentoring doesn't need approval. He thanks me and adds, they keep running in circles, but the circle keeps shrinking, somewhere back there. Tessa posts about resilience and commitment, gets 3 heart reacts. All HR rest is silence, glass door. Review pops up. Later, short, brutal, weirdly fair, says the company didn't hate anyone, it just stopped valuing competence and called the damage equity. Another reply says they hired a vendor to replace the people they discounted. That's basically the whole story. My first paycheck at the new job, hits clean, simple, no experiments, coffee tastes normal, again, which is how you made it out. Sometimes I still remember that EBA line on the pay stub, like an old injury acting up in cold weather. Funniest part is how calm it all sounded. Soft words, bright posters, quiet deductions, no villains, no speeches. Just incentives pulling people like gravity. We didn't burn the place down. We just stopped being the free infrastructure keeping it alive.